I will now call to order the January 12th, 2026 City of Abilene, Kansas City Commission meeting. Shayla, may we please have a roll call?
Mayor Ryan.
Here.
Commissioner Miller. Commissioner Witt.
Present.
Commissioner Kohlhoff.
Here.
Commissioner Meisenberg.
Here.
Roll call's complete.
Okay, we can please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, next up is item 4, City Commission installation. 4A, oath of office to commissioners-elect.
Commissioner Taylor and Commissioner Kohlhoff, if you could just come in front of the bench, please. Oh. I state your name.
I do.
Do solemnly swear that I will support
Do solemnly swear that the word of the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the Union
and the Constitution of the state
faithfully
faithfully discharge the duties
of the city of Abilene.
of the city of Abilene. So help me God.
Just a point of clarification, Commissioner Lytle is on a cruise to the Bahamas that was scheduled well before she even decided to run for commission. She has been sworn in last week in the city office.
Thank you. Welcome back and welcome aboard. I guess that applies to Debbie as well. Welcome aboard. Little,
She was going to try to Zoom in today, but
Okay.
I'm thinking she must not have service.
okay, next is item 5, presentation of plaques to outgoing commissioners Witt and Miller. Picture.
Big picture down there. Up here.
We know it doesn't matter.
Stand next to it, shake the hands under it.
There we go.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
I do just want to take a quick moment to thank Commissioner Witt for his 7 years of service, along with Commissioner Miller's 4 years of service. Appreciate everything you did for the citizens and the community of Abilene, and we'll maybe we can put you on some other boards now. All right, next up is item 6, mayor and vice mayor selection. So I'll just start it out with nominations for mayor in the year 2026.
I would like to nominate Brandon to be mayor for 2026.
I'll second that motion.
Motion has been moved and seconded. Do we have any discussion? Seeing none, we'll move to roll call vote. Commissioner Taylor,
Yes.
Commissioner Lytle is absent, Commissioner Kohlhoff,
Nay.
Commissioner Meisenberg.
Yes.
Myself, yes, motion carries. Our next item is the nomination of vice mayor. I would nominate Cy Taylor.
I'll second.
Motion has been moved and seconded. Do we have any discussion? Seeing none, we'll move to roll call vote. Commissioner Kohlhoff,
Aye.
Commissioner Meisenberg,
Yes.
Commissioner Taylor,
Yes.
myself, yes. Motion carries. You wanted to say no, didn't you? Next item is item 7, approval of the agenda for the January 12th, 2026 City Commission meeting.
I don't have my glasses, but I'll move to approve the agenda.
I'll second. Motion has been moved and seconded. Do we have any commission discussion? Seeing none, we'll move to roll call vote. Commissioner Meisenberg,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Taylor, Commissioner Kolhoff.
Aye.
Myself, yes, motion carries. Next item is 8, recognition of new city employees in 2025.
Mayor and Commissioners, we have several city employees, new employees that started with the city in 2025, and we just want to recognize them. If you could stand when I raise your name. Sorry about my voice. We have Keaton Hargrave, firefighter. Tyler Ediger, recreation supervisor. Kevin Reyes, police officer. Madison Anguano, court administrator. Amber Seiler Johnson is our facilities custodian, and she is at her full-time job currently. Dakota Whiteley, public works maintenance. Slade 80, public works maintenance. Brandon Husky, volunteer firefighter. Allison Huntley, police officer. And Connor Weber, police officer. If you would join me and welcome them to the city. If you could all come up to the front and get a picture of you, please.
I think so. It might be better.
Dan,
Yeah, you're the worst one possible, dude. Yeah, I was gonna say. So this is a good spot for me.
I know. Thought you want to speak. Okay, ready? 1, 2.
Just on behalf of the city commission, I want to thank all of the new employees that were seated in 2025 and thank you for what they have been doing for the city and what they will continue to do in the future. So. Our next item is item 9, recognition of city employees receiving service awards in 2025.
Mayor and Commissioners, we have 6 employees that are receiving milestone service awards in 2025. If you could come to the front once I read your name, and Brandon will present your certificate, and then we'll take a group photo at the end. Susan Alexander is our part-time adult recreation instructor. She's been with us for 5 years. Carrie Zook, Deputy City Manager, Community Development Director, has been with us for 5 years. Angie Wilkins, Recreation Program Supervisor for 15 years. Jason Wilkins, Police Chief. He's been with us for 20 years. Kelly Timbrook, Parks and Recreation Director. She's been with us for 20 years. And Mark Haga, Police Lieutenant, has also been with us for 20 years. Mark's working the night shift, so he's unable to be here.
you want to stand up? Ready? 1, 2.
And likewise, on behalf of the city commission, just want to thank all of you for your continued service and appreciate everything you've done for us thus far. Next item is item 10, consent agenda, which consists of the meeting minutes for December 22nd, 2025 regular meeting, appropriation ordinance A-011-226-1, AP payment register 011226, and D, approval of appointments, reappointments to the following boards and commission. I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Motion has been moved and seconded. Do we have any commission discussion? Seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Vice Mayor Taylor. Commissioner Kohlhoff.
Aye.
Commissioner Meisenberg.
Yes.
Myself, yes, motion carries. Our next item under 11, public comments and communications, is 11A, public forum. If there's anyone that would like to address the commission on an item not on our current agenda, they may do so at this time. Do we have anyone that would like to address the commission? State your name, address, 3-minute time limit.
Julie Roller Weeks, Tourism Director. I would just like to publicly thank the Community Foundation of Dickinson County. They provided us a grant to provide the banners that just went up or are going up in the process. Once our Christmas decorations come down to when our American flags come down, Abilene looks kind of sepia in the winter. And these flags really provide a really nice pop of color to our visitors, our residents, and anyone wanting to make Abilene home. So thank you to them for that. And thank you to Public Works for entertaining this idea and changing out those banners for us.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else that would like to address the commission? Okay. Name, address, and 3-minute time limit.
Bruce Johnson, 524 Ridge Court. I thought I'd talk just a little bit about the southeast drainage. I looked through it's about a 90-page document that explains what's going on, and I just had talked with Mr. Anderson just a little bit about it. So some of what I say may not be that germane, but I'll go ahead and review it anyway. When we had just an inch of rain just a few days ago, and driving by the I believe it's the Northwest 2nd area where buildings are across the street and railroads right there. The water was just standing there, of course, and it's like, so nothing's moving. That's completely blocked. The rest of the areas are pretty much contained in that report, advising up to 5 different possible solutions ranging from about 18 million to 20 some million, and who knows how much that was in 2020. It could cost a lot more now, but hopefully I'd like to bring a suggestion if I can, at least, so that there's something to look at. If we could use, and you can Google these, they're called storm sewer crawler tractors. They show you little devices that are connected to fiber optic cables that you can at least view the areas that have been designated that show water. So if there's some blockage in the pipe, at least you'd know it, and then you can figure out how to go get it. The issue by the railroad track, that's a whole different thing. We know that's blocked. We've just got to find the answer to get that material out of there. And the suggestions that Olson came up with in 2020 were 4-foot boxes going underneath the railroad tracks. Well, those are huge. If we've got 16-inch pipe, that's essentially 9 of those guys that will feed into that. So whether that's overkill or not, I have no idea, but they did not mention the size of pipe that we're dealing with. So just to replace all of those under the railroad tracks, connecting them to the river with an open channel or whatever, may not fix the problem at all, but I didn't see any of that information in there. So I think that needs to be looked at least. So thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else that would like to address the commission on an item not on our current agenda? Seeing none, we will move to jump over 12 unfinished business as there is none, and jump to 13 new business. 13A, discussion and direction to staff regarding updating of the City of Abilene Water Conservation Plan. Interim City Manager Quinn Day.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In your packet is a proposed water conservation plan that has some differences from the existing plan. I'll go through what those changes are and the reason that staff is recommending them. First is the new or the proposed plan has a year-round prohibition of wasting water. Wasting water provides no public benefit and directly impacts the city's ability to protect our limited groundwater resources, and it can delay costly infrastructure expansion. Preventing waste of water is the least disruptive conservation measure and most equitable because it targets avoidable loss rather than essential use. The current plan, avoiding the waste of water, is voluntary unless the city's in a stage 3 water emergency. The plan that's in your commission packet proposed prohibits the waste of water at all times and is enforceable under city code. The outdoor watering restrictions currently, the current code, you cannot water from May 1st to September 30th from noon until 7 p.m. The proposed plan seeks to change that to a uniform year-round restriction from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. Outdoor watering during the hottest part of the day, which actually begins as soon as 10 o'clock in the morning, results in high evaporation and inefficient use of water, especially when you couple that with high winds. Now, having a consistent year-round standard would improve the public's understanding, simplify enforcement, and could reduce our peak system demand. Currently, water conservation in a water watch or stage 1 and a water warning stage 2 are purely voluntary. Why this matters is that we have to wait until a full emergency is declared by the city commission before conservation measures are mandatory. However, by changing stage 2 to mandatory conservation measures, which are chosen by the commission on a case-by-case basis, provides an earlier targeted action that can reduce the stress on our wells and our storage capacity, possibly prevent escalation to a water emergency, and protect the fire protection and public health capacity. As I mentioned, in the current plan, all stage 2 measures are voluntary. The proposed plan allows the commission to impose mandatory measures during a water warning if needed. It's purely up to the city commission. It just gives you that opportunity. Enforcement outside of emergency conditions. Conservation rules must be clear and enforceable to be effective. Year-round standards reduce confusion and improve compliance. In the current plan, enforcement is only tied to water emergencies. We have to be in an actual emergency, the highest issue, something major is going on before we make conservation mandatory. The proposed plan makes certain rules apply enforceable at all times. The city already has permanent conservation rules, such as the watering hour limits. Aligning the conservation plan would require also changes to city code, so there would be consistency, legal clarity, and defensible enforcement. The proposed plan that's in your packet protects the city's water supply by focusing first on eliminating waste, promoting efficient use, and allowing earlier measured responses for rising demand, while preserving the full city commission's control over mandatory restrictions. Given some examples of waste of water, you may see, or you may have seen when you drive down the road and there's water just running down the gutter, sometimes so much that looks like there's a water leak. And that's just somebody who's watering the concrete or watering their lawn so much that it's saturated and running off, or failing to control a known leak in your system. Do you have any questions so far?
Any questions for staff on this item?
I think most of my questions are around objective measures that we can tie this to. I think there's certainly some in here with production capacity and water tower storage capacity, but I'd like more reference to the actual well status.
Okay,
Is that something you've looked at?
no, this the triggers that are in the plan are not changed. We're just looking at making the conservation measures year-round, uniform, and sooner rather than waiting to an emergency. I think if we want to look at what the different triggers are, we'd have to study our wells, our well usage, when they were first perfected, what was their depth, what was their drawdown depth, and compare that over time to see how that health is.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'd be looking for. I think the system tracks that automatically, doesn't it? I mean, we're able to get those reports for, I think they've been presented to us a handful of times that show the level over time. Is that accurate?
Generally, the water department will measure the static and the drawdown physically on location. Perhaps Abilene has the ability to do that remotely, but my experience has been that they physically check those drawdowns and statics on site.
I guess that's something that I think is relevant and something that I would think maybe should be included as a trigger in here. I guess I'd like to know too on some of these triggers with the, well, let's say all the triggers as we go through those, how frequently is the water production capacity only 10% greater than projected demand? This is under Water Watch Stage 1. When is the availability of water storage reduced by one water tower? How frequently is the water tower storage falling below 60% of maximum? Do you have information on that?
No, like I mentioned just a few minutes ago, we did not change the triggers because that would take quite a bunch of in-depth study and then coming back and saying, you know, here's what we recommend based on the well field health, on our storage capacities. The triggers, as you have them written now, seem to work well for the city operationally, but the focus of the proposed changes to the conservation plan here are to focus on eliminating waste, promoting efficient use, and allowing for earlier measured responses to rising demand, not what those triggers are and not what those restrictions should be. What those restrictions should be up to the city commission on a case-by-case basis.
I think looking at the waste, I don't think there's any question, but that's kind of a no-brainer, right? Anytime you're wasting water, it shouldn't matter what time of year it is or anything else. I think from a lawn watering perspective, I'm fine with that as well. I think that's kind of the best practice anyway, I think. And I would guess the people that are watering in the middle of the heat of the day are probably doing it on accident because they couldn't program their machine right. I think I'm fine with those two things. I don't know if there's, again, I would like more objective data. I'd like to know kind of how frequently we're hitting those trigger points, if those are the right trigger points. If we don't have data, I think it's all kind of just arbitrary. It's kind of meaningless if we don't know when those things are happening historically.
True, and I would agree. The waste of water, though, the comment that's a no-brainer. That's one of the reasons we're bringing this to you is right now it's voluntary. Somebody could be just running their hose down the sidewalk and there's nothing the city can do except for watch the levels in our well field go down. You may want to consider approaching this two-part. One is making the changes as far as the focusing on eliminating waste year-round, promoting efficient use. I think one way you can change those triggers now, providing staff time to go through those and update them, would be to put in a line that, or when the city commission determines that a warning or an emergency exists. Ultimately, when you're going to impose mandatory conservation measures on the public, that should be left to the governing body. I understand the question for data on, how many times has this occurred or that trigger occurred. We can get that information to the council or commission, but keeping in mind that when a certain trigger was met in the past, it could be under completely different conditions than what may set the trigger off in the future.
Yeah, I agree with that. Sorry. I feel like we do need some objective data so that it's not just, I don't know, willy-nilly.
Yeah, John, you hit my, I guess, thought process on that. Getting this in place and then getting the data and reevaluating those triggers to make sure that we are covering ourselves on that side of it too.
Yeah, that was, the focus was eliminating the waste and well, what I went through. Be more than happy to work with city staff to bring back some triggers with some data for the commission to revamp this again.
Yeah, and if we could incorporate language that updates this with changes to those down the road, that would be ideal, so we don't have to come back and redo this again.
I'm sorry, I'm not sure I follow.
I thought you had just mentioned that we could include some language in this ordinance that would be it would basically, oh, I don't know, tie it to the city code triggers.
I think you can add a sentence under one of the triggers or any of the triggers that, you know, you have these different things that say, okay, this is a trigger, that's a trigger. Just add a line that says, or when the city commission in its discretion determines that a water warning or a water emergency exists. That way you're not tied to just one of, 5, 6, 7 triggers. There may be a time when the city commission determines that a water warning or water emergency exists, but we haven't met one of those triggers. Something unique comes up. So I think you add
Sure.
a sentence in there for that.
Okay.
What teeth do these, like the water waste, for example, what teeth do we have if we say that it's against city code to waste water?
Off the top of my head, I believe that, well, there's 2 things that could happen. There could be issued a citation in municipal court for violation of city code. The other option is you could terminate their water service. Now, in any type of conservation plan, no matter how strict it is or how laid back it is, key is education. So if the city commission were to adopt these changes, and now waste of water is not voluntary, but you can't do it, then when we see those folks that are doing it, we educate them. We just don't go out and start writing tickets and saying you can't do it. We spend, half a year or a year educating, a whole season educating people. Now, that's not to say that John Q. Public, we talk to him in May and say, hey, you can't waste water. And then we come back and 2 weeks later and he's doing it again. And 2 weeks later, he's doing it again. We're beyond education. Now it may require a citation in municipal court, or depending on the severity of the leak or a leak, then we terminate the water. Again, with failure to control a repairable leak as a definition of wasting water. If you have somebody that has a leak in their home, it's 10 gallons a minute that they're losing and they're having trouble finding it, we're not going to turn off the water because they haven't been able to find it. But there have been cases, not in Abilene, but in other places where you'll have somebody, say a hotel, that's losing 200 gallons a minute. And for them, it's cheaper to pay that bill for 200 gallons a minute than it is to figure out where the leak is in their hotel with 60 different rooms. Ultimately, the plan, one of its tenets is to protect the city's limited well field resources.
Another question kind of relating to the teeth here. I mean, this is just a plan. There's no real, I'm not seeing that there's any enforcement mechanism. I mean, it's not an ordinance or anything like that. So
I'm sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
What I failed to mention is that to implement this plan, there would be required changes to the code. For example, Article 10, there's 3 sections, 1001, 1004, and 1008 that will need to be amended, which would remove waste of water from voluntary measures. It would clearly state that wasting water is prohibited and allow enforcement regardless of the conservation stage. So to adopt this plan, It takes three parts. One, it would require amendments to Article 10, City Code. And Article 10 is the utilities, which includes water conservation, adoption of the plan, and then we send the plan to the Kansas Water Office for their approval.
So with that direction, are you comfortable, and I'll look to City Attorney Martin as well, are you comfortable with the amount of direction we've given in order to begin that process?
Yeah, I can't speak for Aaron, but I'm comfortable with working with Aaron on what sections of city code need to be changed, bringing an ordinance amending Article 10 where it needs to be, the plan in final form, and then we'll start working on triggers, bringing back some data for the commission. We can look at, okay, what triggers make sense.
And do you feel that that January 26th meeting, the next meeting, is enough time for you to prepare those? I'm not speaking of the triggers, but the rest.
I'd have to defer to Aaron. It would be for me.
We can aim for that. Yeah, I think if the plan is to your liking, then we'll have to look through it and make sure, as Commissioner Koloff said, we have teeth in the code to provide for the enforcement in municipal court if need be on each of those regulations. And as we sit here today, that seems manageable. I'll let you know if we run into any obstacles in doing that.
Thank you.
Have any further questions or comments on this so far? Okay. Seeing none, we'll move to 13B, discussion and direction to staff regarding a city facilities naming rights policy. Parks and Rec Director Tim Brook.
Good afternoon. So with the ball field project that we've been working on, we've had some potential donor interest with that. And talking about that, we realized we didn't have a policy in the city for naming rights or anything like that. And this isn't going to be specific to the ball fields. It's a city policy as a whole. The purpose of the policy would protect the city from inconsistent decisions, perceived favoritism, or future disputes. It would help establish a clear criteria for eligibility, define approval authority, and set terms for duration, renewal options, or sunset clauses. Ensure transparency and consistency in naming decisions. And clarify that naming rights do not imply ownership, operational control, or exclusive use. We'll just help outline the approval process that would involve city departments, city manager, and the city commission. So today, all we're asking is for you guys to authorize Aaron to draft up a policy for city facility naming rights, just so we have that set in place. And then we can bring that back to you for approval.
And did you have any sort of timeline that you were shooting for on this?
We're hoping for the 26th.
Okay.
Or however long Aaron needs.
We can aim for that as well. I think there's any direction that the commissioners have in relation to your expectations. Ms. Tim Brook has sent me some examples from neighboring communities, and there's no right or wrong approach. I think those overarching principles that are described in the staff report and that she just mentioned are worthy objectives. Making sure that there is an even playing field. It's everybody's subject to the same rules, but at a higher level, I think it would be helpful to know, is this primarily a revenue generating tool, or is there some other purpose? Do you wish to have, are there any expectations as to a process such as having subordinate boards consider the matter, have a public hearing, any delegated authority to the city manager or staff as to any or all of it, such as dollar thresholds, duration, permanency. You know, I expect the higher in the dollar amount and greater permanency, the more interest you will have in overseeing that. And you can oversee any or all of the process. And I think we can be as flexible as you want. Again, there's no right answer here. So I can come up with a policy, but I think if we're going to have something ready for your formal action or consideration at the next meeting, and there are any expectations on any of those or other issues, it'd be helpful to just talk through those now.
It's a little difficult, just, it's so, I guess, wide ranging of, someone donates $50,000 for a dog park, and somebody donates 500,000 for a sports complex. It's just so wide ranging. It's kind of difficult to put strict parameters in there.
I think some of them that I've read through, kind of depends, like you're saying, what the funding would be going to. And it also doesn't even have to be funding. It can be like a legacy naming right for outstanding individual or a historic place or person in the community. And like you said, it does kind of depend on what the funding's going towards. Some of them that I've seen, there's like the city department director and then the city manager could make a decision up to a certain amount. Over a certain amount goes to the city commission. More permanent naming rights would obviously go to the city commission. So I think everyone I sent to Aaron were a little different, so.
A couple things come to mind on this. I think the first one that came to my mind was actually the existing facilities that are named for previous Abilenians. So
Mhm.
Bill Gravett and Ted Power are the ones that come to mind, but I'm guessing there might be some others. Little
Right.
Lake, maybe, I don't know.
Which is another,
I probably got that one
we need
locked
this
up.
so that we know how to move forward.
I guess moving away from, let's say, historic Abilenians and into people who are going to presumably donate money, is that you kind of have to look a gift horse in the mouth a little bit and say, oh, I'm going to give you $1 and I want my name on that building.
Right.
But you kind of have to make,
Yep. With our ball field project, we're working on a tiered structure that will, certain donations are for certain things, but then some of the ones we have had discussions with are higher donations, so those would be more, suited for a naming right.
right. And I guess that's kind of what I'm saying is if someone says, hey, I want the whole complex, which actually not right, Bill Gravett, the sports complex is a Bill Gravett sports complex. So
Mhm.
does that just go away? I mean, is that we no longer have a Bill Gravett sports complex? And then if Cy wants his name on one field and Brandon wants his name on another field, and
That's
I-
why
I-
we set those thresholds of what gets
yeah.
you that.
I
in
guess what
our
I'm saying
tiered
is
structure.
in a charitable situation, you almost want it to go to the highest bidder without having it be an auction, I guess is what I'm saying.
And I mean, one of the places that we've looked at did an open bid process for an entire complex naming rights. And then they had other levels of naming a field or the concession building or a
Yeah.
dugout.
And all of that was in a request for.
Yeah, it was
package.
put out for a request for bid, yeah.
I think that
The naming, the whole complex one was, yeah.
I think that's kind of to me anyway, that's a preferable process, but I can understand that being not preferable for someone who's saying, they're just going to stroke a check and hand it over. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that's kind of what you have to balance.
Is there a way to build in an alternative to an RFB, a request for bid on that? As opposed to if somebody does make contact with somebody at some date in the future, I mean, would that be something that you could build in an alternative for? If you find somebody, outside of the bid process?
I mean, I think so. And I think with the policy, it doesn't even necessarily have to be like, you give us 100,000, this is what, it doesn't really have to state any of those specifics in just in the ones that I've been looking at, but more just setting the policy of how is there an application process? Is it just, we recommend it to you guys and you approve it? Do we need to do a public, however you guys want to do it? What happens if they don't fulfill their obligation? Just different kind of rules within the policy.
I think the first thing that came to mind when you said, is there like a qualification process, is that we probably don't want the lines down on any one of those fields, so.
Right, and there's parts in there that, you know, it works with the city's values, and
Right.
so, yeah, there's parts of that that you put in there as well.
You said the quiet part out loud.
Well, I think there's probably some more quiet parts, but I think, you know, if someone is willing to give us money, we want them to feel appreciated and
Right.
recognized, and at a level that it's really not how we feel, it's how they feel, I think, from that perspective.
Yeah, and I can email you our draft that we have of our tiered structure, just so you can kind of see what we have for that. Again, this can be for anything within. You know,
Yeah,
Kale Strunk might have a Kale Strunk fire station one day, so
I
this
would
could work for that.
I think I would be interested in seeing the other communities that you were referencing.
Mhm.
I mean, before this, I've spent exactly 0 seconds thinking about naming rights
Yeah.
policy. So just kind of seeing what the other communities, how they have theirs, and there likely are parts of this communities that we really like, and parts of this communities we really like that we can kind of craft our
Yeah.
own.
And like I said, most of them have been pretty, not generic, but don't have a lot of specifics in there, but just what the procedure is and approval process and duration, things like that, so.
Yeah, I think we may have more questions for you than you have of us, but I think we can come back at the next meeting with something tangible to
draft.
talk about. You know, I've seen different processes for, depending on the nature of the naming rights, whether it's philanthropic or commercial. If it is a proposal to name someone after a historic Abilenian, you may wish to pursue a different process than if it's purely commercial, but that's entirely within your discretion. So I think those are some of the considerations. I've also seen policies that have an initial step of just before anything can be named, it has to be designated. So deliberate decision has to be made that that particular facility can and is eligible to be named before anyone goes out and even pursues that. But that's an additional step that you may not want or need. So a lot of those things are just about the process. And I think it's going to be hard to come up with a policy that defines, here's the dollar amount for this, because it's so fact specific. And I don't think we could have a policy that covers every single scenario, especially if we're expanding it to every city facility or building.
I have something. So I know that there's a little bit of a, I wouldn't say rush on this, but I know there is some urgency behind it because we want to start fundraising for capital improvements that the tax revenue won't cover. Is there any way that we can put this on a study session, next study session, and then the following meeting, put it up for a vote? Once we're hyper confident that we have what it takes and have the language right that will appease everybody.
Yes, that's appropriate.
Do you feel that, I think in a lot of these situations, it's not really about, for a lot of folks, it's not about having their name on the field or whatever anyway. Is that your feeling from kind of preliminary conversations? Is that just kind of a nice thing to get?
I think it helps, and just with some discussions we've had, no one has came out and said, well, if I'm gonna do this, you're gonna name something after me, but I just think it is helpful and it means something to them. And really anybody that gives anything will be recognized in some form of fashion, just because they like to come back years later and say, look, I helped with this project, or, you know, we'll do something for anybody that gives anything, but these higher tiers with naming rights are just a little bit different, so.
And I have been to several complexes where they do that and they'll market it, Planet ABC Company Complex on Fish Market Field. So, I mean, companies do like their names on stuff.
Yeah, I think if you go to a KU game, you're going to walk through somebody's gateway to get to somebody's field by somebody's track. Yeah, I get it.
Is the goal to cover every city facility initially, or would it just be for the new recreation complex?
I mean, it came up because of this, but we didn't want to, you know, if we have for my department, if somebody wants to help us with a new playground, you know, or, I mean, I think it would be wise to keep it open.
How granular do you want to get with that? Like if somebody wants the Love's Playground at Eisenhower Park, I mean, is that, I guess, what have you anticipated on that?
I just think that, again, not putting specifics into that, but just, you know, for me, it would be, we would come up with kind of what that would need to be in order to constitute naming rights for whatever project it is, and then bring that forward to you guys to approve.
I think
I think Russell Stover donated a playground set.
Mhm.
And they had a
And they have a
plaque
plaque on
yeah.
it, yeah.
Sorry.
no, you're fine. I think so this is just like one step, but there still has to be some marketing behind it too. So if we said, hey, we can name any building you want in the city after you, here's how to do it. There has to be somebody who's going to, you know, take that and present that as an option to local or regional or national businesses.
Yeah.
So just, is there any thought process behind that?
I don't know, John, if you have any input in that, if you'd rather it stay more towards our facilities or anything, or just keep it open still to the city.
I think is the initial step, if we focus on the ball complex, develop a policy for that, make it donor focused versus legacy focused. What I mean, the difference is naming the airport after somebody because they did 50 years in aviation, not a monetary donation, but just a recognition. So initially, my suggestion would be, let's focus on naming rights policy for the ball complex, donor focused. See how that works out. And if that works out well, then the commission may consider expanding that to other city facilities. I'm not sure we'll get people that want to name City Hall, or maybe you do. I do remember about 15, 20 years ago, there was a big push to sell advertising, to wrap patrol cars and advertising to pay for them. And some of the towns that took those, you didn't know if it was Domino's coming or the police. So somebody stepped out of the car. I'll ask Kelly to send the commission the 4 sample policies that she sent to Aaron and I. But I did look at those, and across those policies, they have several core principles. The first is public interest first. The naming rights exist to serve the community's long-term interests, not private recognition alone. I think most importantly, in every case, the governing body has sole discretion to approve, deny, or revoke naming rights. And the Lion comment, all policy requires name to protect a positive image, be appropriate to the facility and location, and align with the community's values. I think where Kelly was going is we have to be cautioned that when we're doing this, that the naming is treating as long lasting, but not permanent. Will discourage renaming, but the cities have to have the right to remove names for various reasons. Are you going to put terms on it? If somebody spends X amount of dollars to name the home dugout Price Chopper's dugout, how long is that good for? Is $10,000 going to get them 10 years? Is it going to get them 1 year? So I like Commissioner Taylor's suggestion that we'll bring something back, at least a framework based on these 4 policies and the legal considerations of Aaron to the next work study, and we can talk through those. I don't know that you can get too granular about, you know, X dollars for this or X dollars for that. But if you start with just the ball complex, you may be able to say, okay, and the committee's already done this work. To name this, it should cost this. I think that's a good starting point. But trying to do all city facilities from the get-go might be too much to take on.
I agree with you. And certainly this is the most pressing issue. I think my concern relates to consistency. There's obviously City Hall or a fire station is different than a ball field, but I think that there should be some consistency between those policies. So maybe not creating the policy for all city facilities, but creating the policy with all city facilities in mind, if you were to apply those same naming rights or principles.
Yes.
And define that for the
Right.
ball field.
Exactly.
Yeah, I agree. I think we should probably focus up front on the ball fields since that is the most time sensitive one. It'll allow us to kind of have a framework, but then we can do a deeper dive on existing city facilities, specific ones.
Correct.
Any further questions, comments?
Right, thank you.
Thank you. Seeing none, we will move to 13C, discussion and potential action regarding the 2026 through 2034 capital improvement equipment reserve plans for water and sewer. Finance Director Briand.
Mayor and Commissioners, similarly to what staff brought to you for the capital improvement and equipment reserve plans, the two plans included in your packet are long-term planning documents for water equipment reserve and sewer equipment reserve for your review and possible adoption. Both plans are intended to be living documents that are reviewed and returned to the City Commission annually for adjustments. Regular updates ensure priorities remain aligned with current conditions, funding realities, and community needs, while maintaining flexibility as circumstances. Overall, the water and sewer equipment reserve plans support better decision-making, improved service reliability, and responsible stewardship. Do you have any questions?
Questions for staff on this item?
No questions, but just kind of a comment here. I think I vehemently opposed this the last time it was in front of us because of the water tower replacement cost. And I still feel that the data that I found anyway reflects a much lower cost in recent history for replacing water towers. And if that is scheduled for 2031, I feel like we've got a 5-year timeline to make sure we can do that as efficiently as possible. But I would like this to reflect a more accurate number instead of just what I feel like is a shot in the dark on some of these estimates. I'm not going to pretend that I've looked at every single one of these numbers, but I would assume that some of those, they're all round numbers, right? I think they're just a ballpark guess. So I'm fine with the ballpark, but I feel like the water tower replacement specifically might not be in the ballpark.
And just to clarify too, we did prepare and plan very conservatively on everything, because I find that to be and rather than under. And all of these things can change from, and it may not even be 20, once we get down to one that we were going to all part of being able to do it that year and it be pushed. So all of this is fluid, long-term plan, so we can see everything as looking forward, but then crunch down on the current year or two that we're focused on now. And if interim city manager Quinde has had.
Sorry, Kelsey, I can't hear you. I did hear something about the old guy, so you might have been talking about me. The high dollar amount for the water towers doesn't just reflect the water tower that you see above ground. I can't tell you the exact location, but a few months ago, Brad took me around to all the water towers. And there's one in particular that sits right in the middle of a bunch of homes. And to replace that water tower is going to take the cost of tearing that down without destroying the homes it's surrounded by. And then all water towers that are replaced are not just the tower above ground, but then we have to redo all the lines underneath that go to those. So while looking up a water tower cost, you know, how much does it cost for a 500,000 gallon water tower may give you one price. Each replacement is unique, and those estimates are just that. They're estimates on what we think those costs will be. And as Kelsey likely explained, the plan is dynamic, and it's just that it's a plan to show the commission and the public and the ratepayers, this is what we're forecasting for the next 10 years that we're going to need for capital improvements. Approval of the plan doesn't mean that it's the commission's approving those expenditures or those costs. It's you're approving the plan, acknowledging that those are things that are possible expenditures in the next 10 years. But before we do any of those, whether it's a $25,000 valve or it's a $15,000 water tower has to come back to the city commission.
Right, and that one you were referencing on 13th, that one is kind of that's a very unique one with the proximity to homes. And if we're wanting to keep it in that same vicinity, yeah, well, that's going to take some planning as well because we'll have to acquire a property. Since there really is no vacant land in that area. So that one has a lot of complexity to it.
Yes, sir.
Is there a timeline on that one, on when that one needs to go? On 13th Street? On 13th Street?
When it needs to be replaced?
Yeah, in what order? Is that the
No.
one on the 2032 or the one 5 years later?
I don't believe so. I'd have to defer to Brad on their age. I believe they're all close to 100 years old.
Is there a priority?
I would say that one would be the most challenging, and yes, probably the other one out on 4th Street. We recently had Palmer lined again and everything, so that of course buys us time. They're both engineer estimates of 100 years, and I think we're on year 94 and 96, somewhere right in there. So the big thing with that one up there, like he mentioned, is land acquisition. You know, where are we going to go? You have to have another tower completely put in place before you take a tower down. I've contacted KRWA and KDHE on both of these subjects, just trying to get general information on what they're seeing on some of the pricing when it comes to, like he said, it's not just the tower itself, it's the infrastructure that goes to it. That's where the dollars can really add up significantly. And so when we priced everything together, that's kind of where it comes. There's also, I asked about limitations of like during construction, what their KDHE is recommending, or I'm not sure if it's imposed, but restricted area around towers during construction for use of crane and all that kind of stuff that just goes into effect when you're in a construction phase. And so that puts limitations on specific pieces of property that you maybe even be able to look at. So right now, just to be clear, the water towers that we have are functioning. They get inspected. You know, we would know if there's a more pressing situation, but point taken is we're going to be living on borrowed time here very shortly. And the next phase to that is you got to have something in place because our city won't be able to function on if we have a tower down permanently and flow off of another. My opinion, the west one would be, we've already looked at some potentials, and this is just me talking here. It's not a set plan, but the city itself already owns property on the west side of town. Even we looked at the function of even placing it out right near the water treatment plant where we already own the ground. And are there limitations to being able to put a tower there? And we were told no. So a land opportunity already exists out there. Honestly, if we had to do something, I would not be afraid to go ahead and pull the trigger and have us look in to have something built. But the 13th Street one really concerns me. It's very obvious that that tower was put up before a lot of those houses were put in the area. And now that they're there, you're talking a very technical situation with removing it, or does that tower, once it's emptied and out of service, become a permanent landmark? Or, you know, it's just one of them situations. So that's just the input I have.
Do you want to put your name on it? If we
That's exactly right.
I do not.
Brad Anderson, Water Tech.
Yeah.
I guess kind of to your point there, I guess if we are looking at a 5 or 6 year time frame, it sounds like you've already done a lot of this work, but figuring out the most efficient way to do that. So whatever that number is, it's as small as possible and utilizes as much of the existing.
Yeah, and unfortunately, you know, like I said, we see things changing in pricing all the time, and like our numbers didn't just come from, in my opinion, what we pulled up. We did a little bit of research and got KRWA involved and everything. So we tried to just guesstimate. Once again, it's a guesstimation. Things can flex, but yeah, a lot of that is infrastructure pricing, and the way our city water systems are looped. In order to loop them back into a system, you're gonna put a lot of new main line in, and while you're doing it, you just will do it right.
Any further questions or comments on this item? Hearing none, we'll move to 13D, discussion and potential action regarding the Department of Commerce First Amendment to Kansas Department of Commerce Grant Agreement, Interim City Manager Quinn Day.
Included in the commission's packet is the First Amendment to the Kansas Department of Commerce Grant Agreement, which the city entered into in December 2024. It provides $2.5 million for industrial park improvement, infrastructure improvements, and the city's required match is $750,000. The agreement that was approved in December 2024 includes a requirement to create 50 jobs within 3 years of the agreement date. Staff reached out to Commerce and requested an extension of the job creation deadline. They have agreed to the request and prepared the amendment, which is in your packet. The amendment makes 2 specific changes. It extends the job creation deadline to December 31st, 2028. Also modifies the reporting requirements with quarterly reporting to KDOC beginning on December 31st, 2025. And those reports will include the normal things like project progress, expenditures, and other information that Commerce feels is important. All the other terms of the 2024 agreement remain unchanged. I did spend some time talking with Commerce about the 50 job requirement. They've indicated that is intended as a target, not an inflexible mandate. However, they retain discretion in determining the default based on project circumstances and conditions. So we're asking the commission to approve the First Amendment to the Commerce Grant Agreement from December 2024. If you do that, we will submit documentation to Commerce demonstrating the city's availability of our $750,000 match, at which point Commerce will release the full $2.5 million grant payment. And it's our intention to place that in short-term investment until expenditures are incurred later this spring. Are there any questions?
I'm not seeing a sunset on that reporting requirement. Is there an expectation for that to sunset in 2028?
Generally, the reporting requirements, if it's not stated, end with the closing of the grant. Once we report to Commerce that all funds have been expended or what amount of funds have been expended, and that here's what they got for their money, then the grant will be closed out. There'll be some grant closing documents for the commission to approve, and that will stop all reporting requirements.
Do you think it's important to clarify that?
Generally, I don't see that in these types of agreements. It's a little different because although Commerce tells me that the 50 job requirement is more of a target than a hard must-have, that was the legislature's intent according to them. It's still in the agreement as you got to have 50 jobs within 3 years. So for this particular one, no, I do not see that as unusual. However, I think once the industrial park is built and we work with Commerce and they become certified sites through Commerce's certified site program, that we revisit the agreement with Commerce and request a second amendment based on the prevailing conditions at that time as to whether or not we can meet that 50 job requirement. They extend that or they lower that number.
Yeah, I guess one nuance there is if, once this becomes a certified site by Commerce, they may come to us and say, hey, we've got this, perfect manufacturer facility that we would like to place there because of the logistical access, and they may only be bringing, 28 jobs.
Correct.
That would be a situation where Commerce would I guess, release us from that.
Correct. Yes.
I think we need to be cognizant too that commerce is going to look different in a year or two.
Mhm.
Probably.
And so by approving this today, we would be able to submit those documents and access the funds that we could put into an interest-bearing account.
Yes, this simply extends the job creation deadline, adjust the reporting timeline. And then once we do that, we can show them that we have our share and they can send us the check. We plan to get started in turning dirt. And again, I'll have to defer to Brad. I haven't checked the schedule lately, but this spring is when we should, late spring is when we should start turning dirt out there.
When do we anticipate those will be certified?
We have to wait till the project is completed, then fill out certified site applications, have Commerce come visit the site. There's a process to go through.
I guess, when is the expected completion date?
I don't have that with me off the top of my head. I can send that out to the commission later this evening.
Is there any way to overlap any of that construction and site certification? Like,
Generally not, I can check, but the site certification is Commerce's way of telling the site locators that here are shovel-ready sites.
yeah, I understand that. I guess my question is if say the city could start the application before construction was complete so that basically they'd be ready to certify them upon completion of construction.
Yeah, we can look into that, see if that's a possibility to save some time.
We can always have that conversation just to keep them in the loop too, and always kind of building the application as we near completion.
Yeah.
Is that what you're kind of getting at?
Yeah, I mean, I guess my goal would be that as soon as the
Mhm.
turnover is complete, that application's in front of Commerce ready for approval.
Right.
I'm assuming even if we have it in front of them, it'll be 30 to 60 days before it gets signed off on.
I'll look into it and report back to the commission
Okay.
on the certified site process timing.
So with that, I would make a motion to approve the First Amendment to the Kansas Department of Commerce grant agreement.
I'll second.
I'll second too.
Second, third.
Be the second.
Oh, we've got our three. Do we have any commission discussion? Hearing none, we'll move to roll call vote. Commissioner Koloff,
Aye.
Commissioner Meisenberg,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Taylor,
Yes.
myself, yes, motion carries. The next item is 14, city manager and staff reports. Do we have any that aren't, there's none listed, but just want to open it up if there are?
I just want to report that we were working with Vive to get our Vive service agreement costs down. We were shooting for a 25% reduction. They have no reason they had to. They came back with cutting it by 10%, and we ended at 14%, which is about $1,500 a month that we'll be saving. We'll continue to try to lower that cost, but just under $20,000 a year we'll save in 2026.
Thank you. Okay, and our next item is 15, an executive session.
Do I need to make a motion?
We need a motion. City Attorney Martin, do you have any expectation on time needed?
No, and if I could just to introduce this and clarify, as you can see from the proposed text of the amendment, the purpose is to discuss with legal counsel the terms and conditions of an amendment to the interim city manager agreement based upon the attorney-client privilege. You are not obligated to recess into an executive session to discuss that with me, but you may if you wish. That was placed on there as a placeholder in case you do wish to do that. As you will recall, Mr. Quinde is serving under an agreement that we approved on June 25th of 2025, and his agreement expires at the end of this month. In order to affect that timing, it would be necessary to amend the agreement. And when the time is right publicly, and that's for you all to decide, you can discuss the terms and conditions under which you are willing to do that. The executive session would simply be for an opportunity for me to visit with you and you to visit with me about those terms and conditions, if you would like to do that.
I have not seen any proposed amendment, so I don't know what we would be discussing. Can you enlighten us on that?
Well, I have not shared an amendment with you all, and to my knowledge, no one has. I know the mayor has seen it. However, that would be the purpose of the executive session. Under COMA, we're not allowed to have a discussion outside of a public meeting regarding city business. Given the nature of the dynamics of what we're approving, I think it may be advisable to have an executive session with me to talk about it and confirm your preferences. It will be a very short document, as I see it, 1 to 2 pages max, to implement that change. So no, nothing has been shared publicly or with any of the commissioners yet.
So I guess we have two ways we could do it. If we want to go into executive session to discuss the specifics of the amendment, of which there are 2. Or we could move directly into possible action to discuss publicly.
I do have copies of the proposed amendment that I was planning to share with you in an executive session to go through.
I move the city commission recess into executive session for 15 minutes to discuss with legal counsel the terms and conditions of an amendment to the interim city manager agreement based upon the need for consultation with an attorney for the public body, which would be deemed privileged in the attorney-client relationship pursuant to KSA 75-4319B2. The open meeting will resume in this room at 5:28.
I'll second.
Motion has been moved and seconded. Do we have any commission discussion? Hearing none, we'll move to roll call vote. Commissioner Meisenberg,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Taylor,
Yes.
Commissioner Koloff,
Aye.
myself, yes, motion carries. We are in executive session. We will now resume our regular meeting and move to item 15B. Aaron, would you like to give a brief overview of the contract amendments?
Sure. We just discussed in executive session a proposed amendment to the agreement for interim city manager services with Mr. Quinde. As background, the city and Mr. Quinde entered into an agreement on June 25th of 2025 that provided for his provision of those services. By its terms, that agreement expires at the end of this month. And we discussed an amendment to provide for the continuation of those services until a full-time city manager commences employment with the city. In order to do that, I presented you with an amendment. I have copies of those here in front of me for any member of the audience or the public who wishes to see one. It is appropriate for you to vote on approving that amendment today, and that amendment, if approved, would amend Section 2 of the existing agreement to provide for effectively an extension of Mr. Quinde's services. It would no longer expire at the end of this month, and instead the agreement would continue until a permanent city manager commences employment with the city. Both parties will have an opportunity to terminate with or without cause upon 14 days' notice, just as the parties had that right under the prior agreement. And finally, the amendment would revise Section 4 to accommodate a change to the on-site schedule. Mr. Quinde would still commit to a minimum of 3 days per week, as he did under his original agreement. The new agreement is more flexible in terms of allowing off-site work. If Mr. Quinde wishes to work from home, it does continue to provide for at least 1 day per week of on-site work. And it continues to provide for Mr. Quinde's availability on other dates and times as well. If approved, it would amend the agreement and accomplish those objectives. Do you have any questions?
Can you make sure that's put into the agenda packet online, please?
Yes, we will include it as part of the minutes to reflect what was approved.
Thank you.
I would make a motion to approve the First Amendment to the agreement for interim city manager.
I'll second.
Motion has been moved and seconded. Do we have any commission discussion?
Just a little bit. I guess I'm going to vote against this, not because I don't want Mr. Quinde to continue. I do feel that he's brought a lot to the city, and I do want him to continue, but there's certain terms that I disagree with. So I will be voting against it for those reasons.
Have any further discussion from the commission? Seeing none, we'll move to roll call vote. Vice Mayor Taylor.
Yes.
Commissioner Kolhoff.
Nay.
Commissioner Meisenberg.
Yes.
Myself, yes, motion carries. Next item is adjournment.
Before we adjourn, it seems like as we adjourn to the other chamber, 10 minutes is excessive. I don't know if we'd want to amend that to 5 minutes.
Be fine.
So it's 5:35, so starting at 5:40. Will that work? Yeah. I'd make a motion to adjourn and to start the study session at Abilene City Hall at 419 North Broadway at 5:40.
I'll second.
Motion has been moved and seconded. Do we have any commission discussion? Hearing none, we'll move to roll call vote. Commissioner Kolhoff.
Aye.
Commissioner Meisenberg.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Taylor.
Yes.
Myself, yes, motion carries. We're adjourned.